Emily Cross was ordinary by all appearances. 1 years old, brown eyes, sharp mind, quiet voice. She lived on the 5th floor of a rust-colored apartment block in the heart of New Lysandra. A bustling city with blinking lights and broken dreams. Every morning she walked to the corner bakery where the barista always got her order wrong, and every evening she returned home to silence. Her only companion, a half-dead fern and the distant hum of traffic below. Her life moved like clockwork, precise, uneventful, safe. But beneath her stillness was a subtle frequency, something not quite visible, not quite audible, but always there. She'd often stare at walls longer than most, not knowing why. Sometimes she could sense people in rooms they hadn't entered yet or feel sorrow in apartments she never visited. Friends said she was intuitive, tuned in. Emily just thought she was tired, but the city had secrets. And so did she, though she didn't know it yet. Her office job at the Records Bureau was dull paper trails, public blueprints, and mundane secrets. She worked in a gray cubicle next to an overly chatty coworker named Leela, who always complained about her love life. Emily mostly listened. She kept her head down, filed reports, ate lunch alone. But lately, she'd been distracted, pausing mid-task to stare at concrete or blink rapidly, as if something flickered behind the walls. She started getting headaches near electrical panels, and the building structure often shimmered at the edges of her vision like a dream half-remembered. One afternoon, while delivering files to the basement archives, she felt an intense pressure between her eyes and stumbled into a support beam. But before she hit it, her eyes widened. She saw the inside of the wall. Pipes, rats, wires, clearly laid out like a 3D blueprint. She gasped and stepped back, heart racing. She didn't tell anyone. She told herself it was stress or imagination. But the hallway never looked the same again. That night, unable to sleep, Emily sat by the window watching neon lights dance across neighboring rooftops. Her mind replayed the moment in the archives, over and over. She pressed her palm to her apartment wall, just drywall, and Peyton felt her fingers tingle. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, the wall was gone. Not destroyed, just invisible. She could see her neighbors. Kitchen dimly lit, a broken plate on the floor, a man slumped in a chair holding a wine bottle. She recoiled, breathing hard. The wall returned in a blink. She stood still for minutes, unsure if she was awake. A power had awakened one that had been sleeping all her life. And now it wanted out. She touched the wall again, and it happened. Again clearer, this time deeper. Not just sight, but awareness. She didn't just see through matter. She felt everything behind it. Her body trembled. Her life, which once moved like clockwork, had just skipped a beat. In the following days, Emily tested her vision. She started with objects: wood, plaster, brickhand, then tried people. She'd sit on park benches and observe strangers through barriers. Parents arguing behind bushes. A man in a suit crying in a locked car. A teenager hiding a knife in a backpack beneath a stairwell. Her stomach churned. With each use, her senses grew sharper, but so did her anxiety. The world was not what it seemed, and now she couldn't unsee it. She stopped using elevators, avoided crowded places, and jumped at the sound of whispers behind. Walls at night. Her dreams were filled with rooms collapsing, secrets screaming to be seen. She wanted to turn it off, but there was no off switch. Emily had stumbled into a truth no one asked for. The city's skin had peeled back, and what lay beneath wasn't just infrastructure. It was people. It's private lives, pain, deception, and maybe something worse. It happened on a rainy Thursday when the city's power grid flickered. Emily had been walking home late. Umbrella useless in the wind, heels slipping on wet pavement. Just as she passed an alley, a blinding light flashed, then silence. A transformer box exploded nearby, sending sparks across the asphalt. Emily was thrown back, her head hitting a steel trash bin. Darkness swallowed her. She woke up in the hospital with a bandaged head, her ears ringing and her vision blurry. The doctor called it a concussion, but Emily knew something had shifted. The walls around her pulsed. She could see the outline of a nurse's phone tucked in her coat pocket, the skeleton of the wall-mounted monitor, even the veins in the man's arm sleeping in the next room. Her mind burned with layered sights, some natural, others impossible. It wasn't a hallucination, it was clarity. The accident hadn't broken her, had unlocked her. Back home, the world was louder, not in sound, but in presence. She couldn't walk into a room without knowing who'd been there. Smudges of energy lingered in walls like fingerprints. She began noticing things. The outline of mice beneath floorboards, old newspaper clippings behind sealed walls, a spider's nest inside the ceiling light, but it wasn't just physical. People's emotions soaked into their spaces. Her neighbor's wall pulsed red with resentment. A hotel lobby shimmered blue with silent grief. And the hallway at her office where 2 coworkers smiled every morning vibrated with something darker. Something sharp, her head throbbed constantly. She wore sunglasses indoors, not because of light, but because the world was too naked now, and no one else seemed to see it. No one else could. Emily tried to tell Leela at work. She chose her words, carefully phrasing it like dreams, intuitions. But Leela laughed and made a joke about superpowers before switching topics. Emily nodded, pretending to smile. But that day, she saw something she couldn't unsee. While filing forms in the sub-basement, she looked through a locked door labeled Archives Authorized Only. Beyond the wall, she saw rows of metal shelves, and one shelf held boxes full of photos. Hers, her apartment. Her routine, all captured from angles she never knew existed. Fear hit her like ice. Her knees buckled, and she fled the room. Someone had been watching her. Someone knew about her. Or worse, they were the reason she had this gift. Or curse. It wasn't just hers anymore. She was part of something. That night, thunder cracked the sky. Emily stood in her apartment's living room, staring through every wall, ceiling, and floor. The city stretched around her like a translucent map. Her heartbeat thudded beneath her ribs like a ticking bomb. This power wasn't just inside it, was intrusion. She saw people she shouldn't have. Lovers cheating, children hiding bruises. A man loading a gun in a dark room. She began to cry, overwhelmed. She wanted to close her eyes, but the visions persisted, even behind closed lids. She curled up on the couch, shivering, muttering, "Make it stop," to no one. But the city pulsed louder. The secrets screamed louder. And deep within it all, behind the walls and wires and people, something else stirred. Watching, waiting. She wasn't just seeing the world anymore. The world had begun to see her back. Emily began using her gift with caution, then curiosity, then hunger. It started small, spotting lost items behind walls, finding shortcuts through buildings, watching lovers reunite behind locked doors. But soon it became more. She uncovered things no one should see. A hidden room behind a daycare center's bathroom filled with surveillance gear. A pastor's study concealing safe boxes of unmarked cash. A quiet suburban basement with chains on the wall and claw marks in the concrete. Every day, her world widened. Every wall betrayed someone. She kept journals full of notes and diagrams, trying to make sense of what she found. The city was rotting behind its surfaces. And she, this quiet, unassuming woman, had become a living scalpel, peeling it open, but knowledge came at a cost. Her hands shook. She stopped sleeping. Her heart jumped at every knock. Truth, she learned, was sharp, and secrets had teeth. One afternoon, she followed a man she once smiled at daily in her building's elevator. He always wore a business suit, always smelled of mint and expensive soap. She saw something in his coats, something metal. She followed from a distance, watching him enter a storage unit behind an abandoned deli. Her vision slipped through the corrugated steel door. Inside, a girl-bound, barely conscious lay on the floor. Emily's scream caught in her throat. She ran, breath ragged, heart breaking open. She called the police anonymously. They found the girl. The man was arrested. The news called it a miracle tip. But Emily didn't feel like a hero. She felt hollow. The girl's terrified eyes haunted her every time she closed hers. This wasn't a gift. It was a blade, and Emily was bleeding with it. The line between right and wrong blurred. Emily knew things, now dangerous things. She watched a man steal from a charity. She witnessed a teacher hiding test scores. A local politician hiding deeds in a locked vault below his law office. She could stop them or expose them, but at what cost? How many people could she confront before someone noticed? Who would believe her if she couldn't explain how she knew? And what if she revealed too much? Would they come for her? Use her? Kill her? She stopped writing things down. Her journals were now ashes in her kitchen sink. She spoke less, trusted no one. And still the visions came. Still the walls peeled open like old wounds. The city bled secrets, and she was its unwilling confessor. The truth was a burden. And it was getting heavier. Then came the envelope. No stamp, no address. Just her name, Mimily, in thick black ink. Inside, a photo of her staring at a wall in her apartment, taken from behind. From inside, the angle wasn't possible. Her blood turned cold. Beneath the photo was a note. Stop looking, or we start looking back. Her heart pounded so hard, it echoed in her ears. She dropped the photo like it burned. This wasn't about her power anymore. Someone knew. Someone had been watching her watch them. And now they wanted her blind. She pressed her back to the wall, trembling, vision flaring, uncontrollably. Behind the ceiling above her, someone moved. Quiet footsteps. She was no longer alone in the unseen. The world beyond the walls had awakened, and it had rules, and watchers, and punishments. Emily stopped using her gift for days. She taped her windows shut, unplugged her lights, stacked furniture against walls, but it didn't help. The visions still crept through, less like sight, more like memory. She could feel a couple arguing 5 floors below. A man coughing behind the neighboring wall, and someone watching from above. Her world shrank to silence and shadows. She barely ate. Her eyes were ringed in gray. Her phone buzzed with texts. She no longer answered. People noticed her absence. Lila knocked once, but Emily didn't answer. How could she? How could she explain that knowing too much robs the soul? That hearing your neighbor's sins, seeing crimes unfold behind drywall, and carrying every secret like a scar was like drowning in whispers. Emily was no longer a woman with a gift. She was a vault with no lock, and everything she saw screamed. To be her. When she finally went outside, the city felt like a trap. Everywhere she saw threats, security cameras behind false mirrors, microphones planted in flower pots, people whose smiles didn't reach their eyes. At the bus stop, she looked through the bench and saw someone's journal tucked into the metal slats filled with notes about her. Her name, her movements, her job. She dropped her coffee. Across the street, a man in a black coat stared directly at her and vanished into the crowd. The message was clear. She wasn't the only one watching. Someone was studying her. The power she thought was hers alone now felt borrowed, fragile, and exposed. She wasn't just a witness anymore. She had become a target. And she could no longer tell the difference between using her gift and being used by it. That night, she tried to turn it off again, closed her eyes, wrapped her head in thick towels, blasted white noise. But the city still bled through. She saw a child crying in a stairwell, a man sleeping with a knife under his bed. Someone writing her name on a basement wall. The knowledge didn't stop. It multiplied. The weight of it pulled her down. And worst of all, she couldn't share it. Who would believe her? Who could understand? Telling someone meant risking them. Staying silent meant drowning alone. She stared into the mirror and didn't recognize herself. Her eyes were too wide, too distant. Her lips trembled with truths she couldn't say. Emily had always been quiet. But now her silence wasn't personality, it was survival. This power was no longer a gift. It was a sentence, and the walls she saw through weren't. Around others. They were closing around her. They came for her at 3:12 a.m. not with violence, but precision. 3 knocks. A shadow slipped under her door. No voice. Just presence. She looked through the wall and saw 2 figures outside, standing still in long coats. Their faces were blurred, not hidden. Unseen able. They knew she was watching, and they knew how to hide. She backed away, heart pounding, sweat pooling down her neck. Then, as suddenly as they appeared, they were gone. But on the inside of her door, scrawled, in charcoal, was a final warning. Truth is hunger. Choose your appetite. Emily stared at it for hours, her mind spinning. She could no longer unknow what she knew. She could no longer live in the world as it pretended to be. But if she kept seeing, she kept peeling back layers, she would never be safe again. Her power had broken the world open, and now it wanted something in return. Emily stood at the edge of the rooftop, wind tugging at her coat, eyes scanning the city she now knew too well. Beneath her feet, apartments whispered, tunnels breathed, secrets shifted. She'd once walked these streets blind to what lived behind them. Now she could see everything. But knowledge had a cost. No sleep, no peace. A gift turned burden, turned threat. She could walk away, suppress it, peer into another city, dye her hair, forget what she saw. But that meant abandoning the girl in the stairwell, the woman behind the locked door, the children in places no one ever looked. She reached into her bag and pulled out a flash drive, the only copy of the ledger she had built. Full of faces, locations, connections. With one upload, she could expose them all. Or destroy herself. She descended from the rooftop and entered the old telecommunications building downtown. It had once been abandoned, now quietly humming with life again. Deep inside, in a forgotten server room, Emily placed the flash drive into the terminal. A screen flickered. Are you sure? Fingers hovered. Was she ready to become the thing they feared? To speak the truth out loud and suffer the consequences. She closed her eyes and saw through walls. One last time. A girl sleeping in fear. A boy stealing food. A man sharpening a blade. Her decision wasn't hers anymore. It belonged to them. She hit upload. The room dimmed. The signal went out. The secrets were loose. By the next morning, the city woke to chaos. News broke across every channel. Evidence, files, footage. Leaders fell. Buildings were raided. People cried. Some disappeared. Emily watched from the shadows. Her name wasn't mentioned, but she knew who was watching. She changed addresses weekly, used burner phones, stayed off cameras. She was free, but not safe. And through every wall, she still saw more. More lies, more cries for help. She wanted it to stop. But she also knew once, you've seen the truth. You can't unsee it. And once you carry the burden, walking away feels like betrayal. She wasn't done. Not yet. On a quiet afternoon, she sat in a public library, hoodie pulled low, eyes scanning a new floor plan she memorized in seconds. A boy walked past her and stopped. He looked at her, hesitant, then whispered, I know what you are. She looked up. Couldn't have been older than 10. I see things too, he added. Her heart skipped. Another, or a trap. She studied. His face scared, but not lying. Behind the walls, something stirred. She stood up slowly and handed him a note. Then you'll need this, she said, smiling faintly. He nodded and walked away. The world hadn't ended. It had begun again through another pair of eyes. Emily turned back to the window. And just like that, she disappeared into the noise of the city, its new invisible guardian, cursed with clarity, armed with compassion, and forever haunted by the question, what would you do if you could see through walls? That was all for today. Leave a like on the story and let us know where are you watching from down in the comments section. Do consider subscribing to our channel to become a part of our family. Till then, take care, besties.